They had been married for only 3 weeks. 3 weeks of laughter, of new routines, of learning each other's sleeping habits and morning moods. Asad liked his chai too sweet. Zara couldn't sleep without a window cracked open, just a little, even in winter. They were still learning each other. The way two people do in the beautiful, terrifying beginning of a life together. The road trip had been Asad's idea. "We need an adventure," he had said, spinning the car keys around his finger with that boyish grin that had made Zara fall in love with him in the first place. Something to remember forever. Zara had laughed, tucking her dark hair behind her ear. "We just got married. Is that not enough of an adventure?" "That's just the beginning," he said. "Come on. I found this place online, an old British-era Haveli up in the mountains. It's been converted into a guest house. They say the views are incredible." Zara looked at the photos on his phone. Stone walls draped in ivy. Arched windows overlooking a valley that dropped into mist. Tall pine trees like dark sentinels standing guard around the building. It was beautiful. Strange and beautiful. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." They drove for 6 hours. The roads got narrower as they climbed. The city melted behind them. The noise, the traffic, the familiar smell of street food and exhaust, all of it falling away like a skin they were shedding. Up here, the air tasted different. Clean and cold and ancient. The GPS lost signal somewhere after the second mountain pass. "Great," Zara said. "We don't need it," Asad said confidently, squinting at a faded sign on the roadside. "The Haveli is on top of Kala Parbot. Black Mountain. We just follow the road up." Who names a mountain Black Mountain and thinks, "Yes, this is where I'll build my vacation home"? Asad laughed. The British. They had strange taste. Zara pulled her shawl tighter. Outside the window, the pine forest had grown dense and close, the trees pressing against both sides of the narrow road like walls. The late afternoon sun was already touching the mountain peaks, bleeding orange and red across the sky. "We should get there before dark," she said quietly. Asad reached over and squeezed her hand. "We will." They didn't. By the time the Haveli appeared at the top of the winding road, the sky was completely black. No gradual darkening. No twilight. The mountains simply swallowed the sun, and then the darkness came all at once, absolute and total, as if someone had drawn a curtain across the world. Asad stopped the car. They both stared through the windshield. The Haveli was enormous. That was the first thing, its sheer size. In the photos online, it had looked grand but manageable. In person, against the black mountain and the black sky, it looked like something that had grown out of the rock itself. 3 stories of dark stone. Tall arched windows, many of them dark, a few lit from within by a faint amber glow. A heavy wooden door at the entrance, carved with patterns that Zara couldn't quite make out in the headlights. The iron gate at the base of the path hung open. "It's amazing," Asad breathed. Zara said nothing. She was looking at the windows. The lit ones. The amber glow inside them was wrong somehow. It flickered in a rhythm she couldn't understand. Not like electricity. Not quite like fire. "Zara." She blinked. "Let's go in." The caretaker's name was Barber Elias. He was an old man, very old, with a face like crumpled paper and eyes that sat too deep in his skull. He was waiting for them at the door, a lantern in one hand, as if he had known exactly when they would arrive. "You are late," he said. Not accusatory, just stating a fact, the way you state the weather. "The roads," Asad began. "Yes." Barber Elias turned without another word and walked inside. They followed. The entrance hall was vast. Stone floors, high ceilings, wooden beams overhead. Old furniture draped in white sheets. Oil paintings on the walls. Landscapes mostly, but one portrait that Zara paused at. A man. Dark eyes, long face, dressed in old-fashioned clothes she couldn't place in any particular era. He looked, not at the viewer, the way most portrait subjects do, but slightly to the side, as if he were watching something just out of frame. She moved on. Barber Elias led them up a staircase to the second floor. Their room was at the end of a long corridor. It was comfortable enough, a large bed, a fireplace already lit, heavy curtains on the windows. Old but clean. No other guests. Assad asked. No, said Barber Elias. And you? Do you stay here? I am in the ground floor, the east wing. He set the lantern on the bedside table and turned to leave. Then he stopped, his back still to them, his old hand resting on the door frame. Keep your door locked, he said. At night, whatever sounds you hear, from the corridor, from the walls, do not open the door. Zara felt the air in the room change. What kind of sounds? A long pause. Old houses settle, Barber Elias said, and walked away. They laughed about it over dinner. Barber Elias had left them bread, rice, dal, and a thermos of hot chai. They sat by the fireplace, eating and laughing, and Assad did an impression of the old man's deep, dramatic voice. Whatever sounds you hear. And Zara threw a piece of bread at him, and they were happy. Young and warm and full of food, with a fire crackling beside them and the whole adventure of marriage still unspooling before them. Zara was laughing at something Assad said when she heard it. She stopped. What? Assad asked. Shush. From the corridor outside their locked door, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, heavy footsteps, walking toward their room, then stopping just outside. Silence. Then, very softly, a knock. One knock. Just one. Assad and Zara looked at each other. His smile had faded. Barber Elias. Assad called. Nothing. Probably him, Assad said, getting up. Zara grabbed his arm. He said, don't open it. He's probably just checking on us. Assad. She didn't let go. Something had risen in her chest. Not exactly fear, not yet. Something older than fear. Some animal instinct that lives beneath thought, beneath language. Don't open it. He looked at her. He sat back down. The footsteps moved away. Back down the corridor. Growing fainter. Gone. They went to bed early. Neither of them slept for a long time. Zara woke at 3 in the morning. She didn't know how she knew the time. She just knew. 3 in the morning. The hour when the world is most itself, most stripped of the comfortable illusions of daylight. The fire had burned low. Red embers. The room was full of deep shadow. Assad was asleep beside her, his breathing slow and even. Zara lay still, staring at the ceiling, wondering what had woken her. Then she felt it. The sensation of being watched. It was not a sound, not a movement. It was a pressure, the specific, unmistakable pressure of another consciousness fixing its attention on you. Anyone who has ever woken in the night and known, before opening their eyes, that they are not alone, will understand exactly what Zara felt in that moment. She turned her head slowly toward the window. The heavy curtains were open. She had closed them before bed. She was certain of it. They were open now, and through the glass, framed by the black mountain and the scattered stars, something stood on the narrow stone ledge outside the window. A shape. It was tall, too tall for the window frame to contain it fully. It stood with a stillness that nothing living stands with. Its form was not quite solid. She could see, or thought she could see, the stars through the edges of it, the way you see light through smoke. But its face was turned toward her. She could not see its features clearly in the darkness. Only the eyes. 2 points of deep, amber light, like the glow she had noticed in the Havli windows when they first arrived. Fixed on her. Unblinking. She could not move. Could not speak. Could not breathe. And then, And she would spend years trying to explain this to herself and never quite manage. She felt something she had not expected. Not hatred from the shape at the window. Not hunger. Something more disturbing than either. Longing. She screamed. She didn't decide to. It simply tore out of her, and Assad lurched awake beside her, and the room flooded with noise and movement and the mundane panic of a startled human being fumbling for the lamp switch. Light. The window was empty. The curtains hung open. The ledge outside was bare stone, 3 stories above the mountainside. Nothing there. Nothing could have been there. Assad held her. What? What happened? What did you see? The window, she said. Something at the window. He checked it, opened it, let in a blast of cold mountain air, looked out. Bare ledge. Dark valley below. Stars. Nothing there, he said gently. A dream. You were half asleep. She knew she had not been asleep, but she let him close the window, draw the curtains, hold her in the warm dark until her heartbeat slowed. She did not sleep again. In the morning, the Haveli was different. Daylight came through the mountain mist like something cautious, feeling its way, and in that pale morning light, Zara saw things she had missed the night before. The floors, stone, yes, but worn in patterns. Deep grooves worn into the stone by the corridor, as if something had paced the same path back and forth for a very long time. The paintings on the walls. She stopped at the portrait again. The dark-eyed man looking slightly off to the side. In daylight, she could see details she'd missed. His hands resting on the arms of the painted chair. Long fingers. And on the wall behind the painted figure, almost invisible against the dark background, a window. And through the painted window, barely visible, a room. Zara leaned closer. The room in the painting looked like their room. She stepped back. Her shoulder blades hit the opposite wall. She went to find Barber Elias. She found him in the courtyard, sitting in a wooden chair in the weak morning sun, drinking chai. He did not look surprised to see her. "Who is in the portrait?" she asked. "In the entrance hall." He looked at her for a long moment. "You should leave today," he said. "You and your husband." "Who is he?" Barber Elias set his chai down. He was quiet for so long that Zara thought he had decided not to answer. Then he spoke. His name does not matter. He built this Haveli. Long ago. Before the British. Before many things. He paused. He was not a good man. He was a man of great power and great appetite, and he wanted things that men are not meant to want. He made arrangements with things that live in these mountains. Old things. In exchange for long life, for power. "Jinn," Zara said. Barber Elias looked at her steadily. "There are different kinds of what you call jinn. Some are simple. Spirits of place, of element. They do not care about human affairs." Another pause. "Some are different." And he made an arrangement with one of the different ones. Yes. What happened to him? He lived for a very long time, and he wanted everything for a very long time. Barber Elias picked up his chai again. Eventually, wanting becomes the only thing left of a person. He is still here. In the walls. In the stones. Still wanting. Zara felt the cold settle deeper into her bones. "It was at our window last night." Barber Elias said nothing. "It was looking at me." "Yes," he said, very quietly. "I know." "Why me?" Another long silence. The mountain wind moved through the courtyard, rattling the dry leaves of a potted plant, and Barber Elias looked at her the way very old people sometimes look at very young ones, with a sorrow that has nothing to do with the present moment. "Because you are beautiful," he said simply. "And because it has been alone in these stones for a very long time. And because..." He stopped. "Because what?" "Because it has decided," he said, "that you belong to it." Assad thought she was being dramatic. not cruelly. He was a kind man, Assad, but he was also practical, and 26 years old, and deeply in love with the idea that the world was rational and manageable. He listened to everything she told him, sitting on the edge of the bed with his elbows on his knees, and then he said, "An old man's story. Superstition. This place is old and isolated and spooky. That's why people hire caretakers who tell ghost stories. It adds to the mystique." Assad. Zara. He took her hands. "Look at me. We are safe. It was a dream. We'll stay one more night as planned, and in the morning we'll drive home, and this will be a funny story we tell our children." She wanted to believe him. She almost did. "Please," she said, "let's go today." He hesitated. In that hesitation, she almost won. But then his phone buzzed, a notification, which surprised them both, since there was no signal, and he glanced at it reflexively, and the moment passed. "One more night," he said. "Then we go. I promise." That afternoon, Zara walked the Haveli. She didn't know why. Compulsion, maybe, the same thing that makes you press a bruise. She walked the corridors, room by room, floor by floor. The second floor. The third. On the third floor, at the end of a corridor she hadn't noticed the night before, there was a door, different from the others. Smaller, set deeper into the wall. Made of very old dark wood, with no handle, only a latch of tarnished iron. Around the door frame, carved into the stone, were symbols she didn't recognize. Geometric patterns, flowing lines, letters in a script she had never studied. She stood before the door for a long time. She should not open it. She knew that with absolute certainty. The way you know not to walk toward the edge of a cliff, not because you are afraid of falling, but because the height calls to something in you, and that calling is the danger. She raised her hand toward the latch. "Do not." She spun around. Barber Elias stood at the far end of the corridor. He had not made a sound approaching. He stood in the dim light, his expression not angry, not frightened, resigned. "What is behind this door?" she asked. "His room," Barber Elias said, "where he spent his last years, where he completed his transformation." He walked toward her slowly, and she noticed for the first time how carefully he moved, as if the floor might shift beneath him. The symbols on the frame keep it sealed. They have held for a long time. "If you open that door," he stopped beside her, looking at the carved stone frame. "The seal breaks, and what is held inside comes out. Has already been watching you through the walls," Barber Elias said. "But yes, if the seal breaks, there is no longer any barrier, any wall, any door." He looked at her directly. "Do you understand?" She lowered her hand. "Yes." "Your husband will not leave tonight." "No." The old man was silent for a moment. "Then I will tell you what I know," he said, "and perhaps it will be enough." They sat in the kitchen, the warmest room in the Haveli, and Barber Elias told her. The entity in the walls, he was careful never to say its name, and she was careful not to ask, had once been human, fully human. A man of great intelligence and ambition who had, over many decades, traded away his humanity piece by piece in exchange for power, for knowledge, for permanence. When a person does this, Barber Elias said, they do not turn into something entirely different. They remain half what they were, half what they bargained with, and the human half, it still feels, still wants, still grieves. But the human half can no longer be satisfied by human things. He wrapped both hands around his chai glass, so it fixes on something it cannot have, something fully alive, fully human, and it obsesses. It has done this before, Zara said. It was not a question. Yes. He did not elaborate on that, and she did not ask. How do I? She stopped. Started again. If it has decided I belong to it, can I leave? Barber Elias looked at her carefully. It cannot cross the gate. The iron at the entrance gate. There are things worked into the metal. It cannot pass through. If you leave the Haveli and pass through the gate before midnight, you are beyond its reach. And after midnight? He said nothing, which was answer enough. She looked at the clock on the kitchen wall. Hand-painted face, old mechanism, ticking steadily. 9:47 p.m. She ran back to their room. Assad was reading, propped against the pillows, completely at ease. He looked up when she burst through the door. What? We need to leave. Right now. Get up. We need to go. Zara. Now, Assad. Please. The car, downstairs, right now. Something in her face reached him, some register of genuine terror that his rational mind could not entirely dismiss. He got up. He didn't argue. He grabbed his jacket, his keys, her hand. They moved through the Haveli quickly, back down the corridor, down the staircase to the entrance hall. They were halfway across the entrance hall when the lights went out. All of them. Every light in the Haveli, simultaneously. The amber glow in the corridors, the kitchen light behind them, the lamp above the staircase. Total darkness. Zara clutched Assad's hand. Keep walking, she whispered. The door is straight ahead. Keep walking. They walked. The entrance hall was not large. 20 steps, perhaps 30. Straight ahead. Simple. But in the darkness, the 20 steps felt like a road through unknown country. The familiar stone floor seemed to shift slightly under her feet, as if the building itself were breathing. The air changed, grew heavier, colder, and carried with it a smell she hadn't noticed before. Something old. Something that reminded her of very deep water, of stone that hasn't seen sunlight in centuries. And then, from above them, from the ceiling, from everywhere and nowhere, a sound. Not a voice, exactly. More like the feeling of a voice, the shape that a voice leaves in the air after it has spoken. Low, resonant, vast. And in it, beneath it, woven through it like a thread through fabric. Her name. Zara. Not loud, not threatening, patient. The way you call to someone you are certain will eventually come to you. Her steps faltered. Don't stop, Assad said. His voice completely changed. No more rational calm, no more gentle skepticism. Pure, clean, honest fear. He had heard it too. Don't stop, keep moving. She kept moving. The door. Her hands found it. The iron handle, cold as a winter river. She turned it. Locked. It's locked, she began, and then remembered, the lock, on their side, a simple bolt. She found it by feel. Slid it back. Pulled the door open. Cold mountain air hit them like a wave. Stars. Darkness. The path down to the iron gate, just visible in the starlight. They ran. The path was steep and uneven and they stumbled twice, but they didn't let go of each other's hands. Behind them, the Haveli loomed against the sky, and Zara did not look back. She refused to look back, but she felt it. The attention. That same weight of focused wanting that had woken her at 3 in the morning. It was at the windows now. She knew it without seeing it. Watching them go. The iron gate. Assad grabbed it, pushed. It swung open, creaking, and they stumbled through, and he pulled it shut behind them, and they ran to the car, and she was in the passenger seat and he was starting the engine before the gate had stopped swinging. The car lurched forward, down the mountain road. Zara looked at the clock on the dashboard. 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes. She finally looked back. The Haveli stood on the mountain top, dark against the stars. And in one of the windows, the 3rd floor, end of the corridor, she knew 2 points of amber light. Steady, unblinking, watching. The road curved. The Haveli disappeared. The amber lights were gone. They drove through the night without stopping, all the way back down the mountain, through the valley, onto the main road, back toward the city. They didn't speak for the first hour. There was nothing to say that the silence didn't already hold. Sometime around 2 in the morning, Asad pulled over at a dhaba on the roadside. Fluorescent lights, chai, the sound of a television in the back room playing an old film. The most ordinary place in the world. They sat across from each other at a plastic table and drank chai that was too sweet, the way Asad liked it, and the warmth and the light and the noise of the ordinary world slowly filtered back into their bones. "I'm sorry," Asad said finally. "I should have listened to you." "Yes," Zara said. "You should have." He almost smiled. She almost smiled back. "What was it?" he asked. "What do you think it actually?" "I don't know," she said. "And I don't want to know." He nodded. He understood. They finished their chai. They drove home. The sun came up over the plains as they crossed back into the city, orange and clean and ordinary, the traffic already building, the world doing its morning things. Zara kept the window down, her face in the early sun. She never went back. In the years that followed, she thought about it sometimes, late nights when Asad was asleep and the apartment was quiet. She thought about the old man in the portrait with his amber eyes and his sideways gaze. She thought about what Baba Elias had said, "It has decided that you belong to it." She thought about the voice in the dark entrance hall, the patience in it, the terrible, inhuman patience of something that has been waiting for centuries and has learned that waiting is simply what it does. And she thought about this. After they passed through the iron gate, after the car pulled away, she had felt that weight of attention lift, that watching pressure, gone. But once, just once, maybe 3 months later, she had woken at 3 in the morning in her own apartment, her own bedroom, and looked toward the window. The curtains were open, and for just a moment, half a second, the space between sleeping and waking, she thought she saw, in the city glow beyond the glass, 2 points of amber light. Patient. Still. Looking in. Then Asad shifted beside her, mumbled something in his sleep, and she blinked, and the window showed her nothing but the city and the night and the ordinary dark. She got up. She closed the curtains. She went back to bed. She told herself it was nothing. She almost believed it. The mountains don't forgive those who don't belong. But some things in the mountains, the old things, the wanting things, they remember. And remembering, for them, is the same as waiting. And waiting, for them, has no end.